have to be the man. You gotta beat the man.
Shadows sleeping in the dead of night. I light the match, they feel my fight. Street I flicker like a war zone flare. They see me rise, but they won't dare. Some men cracks under my stride. Whispers chase me, they collide. Gun dreams heavy like gold chains. Every scar that screams my name. Be legendary, feel the fire in your chest. No second guessing, this is your test. Be legendary.
Yes, indeed. Another legendary week on tap here in the Hoosier Legends Conference. Welcome to the Hoosier Legends Weekly podcast. I am your co-host, Justin Spears, joined as always by Mr. Mike Walden. Mike, what is going on this fine Wednesday cooler evening?
Hey, Coach. Everything's going great. We got to meet all the athletic directors today, have a nice lunch with them. So everything's looking positive on that aspect of life. It's Wednesday, so we've got 2 more days till the weekend. Looking forward to that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, big shout out to the conference ADs for letting us tag along today in their monthly meeting. It was very nice to be able to meet everybody face to face, kind of get it out there a little bit about what we're doing, and love the support that we got in the room. And so, again, we're just looking forward to continue to grow what we're doing here on the Hoosier Legends Weekly podcast. There's some things in the works too for us to be able to kind of get some other formal communications going for the conference. I know next year jumping up to 8 with Greenwood and Shelbyville joining, and we just, like we said to them, we really want to spotlight the young men and women that are participating in these sports and be able to give them a platform and let people hear about the great things that they're doing. So absolutely looking forward to being able to do that more consistently and hopefully a little bit more efficiently as well, right, when we get some access to some information. But again, as we always say, right, love for you guys to be able to touch base with us. So I always flash the ways in which you can get in touch with us up here. Don't forget, you can always email us, HoosierLegendsPodcast@gmail.com. That is our email account. We check that pretty frequently. The show, as far as where you can find it, if you want to share it with somebody, maybe you're a regular listener and you want to have somebody else check that out, you can catch us on Spotify. Hoosier Legends Weekly Podcast is the channel over there. So you can find the show posted up over there. We also put it up on YouTube. At Hoosier Legends Podcast over there on YouTube. So either way, however you enjoy your podcast, you can check it out there. And trying to more consistently on YouTube, put the section headers in as well and break the podcast up so that if you want to check just your school's information, you can, find that queued up on the header there for the timeline and read into that what you want. If you want to check out multiple schools or just one school or whatever, we're trying to make sure that we segment up the show that way as well. So we love it. We're excited, looking forward to getting the winter season, almost fully underway here. We're still a little bit of that transition, right? Starting to see some stuff come in from girls wrestling and basketball. Shortly behind that's going to be boys wrestling and basketball. And before we know it, the swimmers will be in the pool, lighting that up as well. And we still have one HLC football team, and that's what we're going to segue into, that is still playing here with our legendary performance spotlight. Mike, do you want to lead us in on this one?
Yeah, we want to congratulate Evan Clark and how well he's been doing. Evan was able to lead the Braves to Sectional Championship, the only Sectional Championship coming out of our conference. He went 10 for 14, 254 yards, and 5 touchdowns in a Sectional Championship game. So congratulations to sophomore Evan Clark. I know they say once you get past the regular season, you're in the postseason now. You're no longer a sophomore. You're a grade above because you have that season underneath you. But he has 2 more. You know what I mean? So I think everybody in the Hoosier Legends Conference have got to be looking out for Indian Creek and seeing what Evan Clark can do. Because, I mean, he's a big boy. I remember seeing it. I don't know how much he weighs, but he's like 6'4", right? I think. And pretty big kid, strong kid. So he's not going anywhere. So congratulations to him. Congratulations to Triton Central winning the sectionals, and good luck to them as they take on Gibson Southern on Friday.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome. I mean, you got to think about the pressure as a sophomore, right? To be able to go down and win a sectional game that way. That's really efficient passing, manage the game well. Throwing for 5 TDs and no interceptions is pretty awesome there. So yeah, congratulations to Evan and the Braves. I know they're going to hopefully be able to give Gibson Southern a good run for their money. I know we'll talk about that here towards the end of the show, but I mean that is really good. Sorry, I was just checking too. Max Preps has Evan listed at 6'2", 210. So that's a big boy, right? Yeah, 6'2", 210, big boy. So.
I mean, that's still a big kid, but I don't know why I thought he was a little bit taller than that. He just seems really big on the football field.
Yeah. So congratulations again to those guys, and looking forward to seeing what they can do coming up on Friday. All right, so we've got, like I said, girls basketball is underway. We've already had a couple conference matchups. I think most teams have gotten at least a game or two now under their belt, and so we can go ahead and start throwing up some conference stats numbers here and kind of give you a little bit of a sense as to where we are. When we did our season preview and we got to be able to interview Coach Selk and Coach Graham, both from Beech Grove and Triton Central respectively, and got some feedback from Coach Crafton. And still, if you're, we've reached out to some of the other schools, if they get some time and they can get us some information on the background of what they expect for their seasons, we'll be happy to kind of pass that along too. But I know when I was doing the research, on girls basketball, like I said, 3 teams last year in the ICC were 6-1. We came in second place in this old Sagamore. And so there was I knew there was going to be a lot of great basketball being played in this conference. And so we've seen that early right out of the gate. So let's just go ahead and kind of run through what we've seen. The top 3 leading scorers after the first week here. Madeline Metallic out of Speedway, 24 points in her season opener. Ellie Oliver out of Indian Creek with 18, and Anaya Anthony from Tri-West with 18. So that's what we've seen. I don't think those reflect if a team has played a second game yet. I know some teams played last night and maybe even Monday night, and I don't know that all those stats have been added in yet. So just as a caveat, I think this is just one game, right, Coach?
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, these are all just first game in Max Preps. So, just another thing for all the coaches out there. I know they're busy trying to do X's and O's. They're busy trying to get their girls ready to play their next opponent. But we can only report on the stats that we're given. Mm-hmm. And right now, Max Preps shows one game for everybody, or at least in the stat wise. I know when it comes to standings, it's a little bit more updated. But you know how that works, Coach. Coaches get busy. So this is just off the first game, I think, when we're looking at the scoring leaders, rebounders, and double people.
Yeah. Yep. Absolutely. And then on that rebounding note, Alexis Sichting from Indian Creek, 15 rebounds in her opening game. That's pretty amazing. Looks like 10 defensive, 5 offensive rebounds. So that's really solid. Blair Benner out of Tri-West has 11 rebounds in her first game. It looks like 5 defensive and 6 offensive rebounds. That's pretty amazing. That's tracking the ball down. And then Harper Moore out of Beech Grove, 11 rebounds in her first game. Again, 10 defensive, 1 offensive. And then double-doubles. And Coach and I were talking a little bit before we jumped on here about what we want to try to track as far as statistics and being able, again, to spotlight and showcase the great things that young boys and girls are doing on these teams. And so right now we've got a couple of kids with some double numbers that are coming in. And so, again, Blair Benner out of Tri-West coming in at 14 and 11. Ellie Oliver from Indian Creek is coming at 18-10. Anaya Anthony, 18-10, and then Harper Moore 14-11. So again, that's pretty solid right out of the gate. And I know I'll mention two that I saw. We have, and we'll talk about this when we get into the results. We had a young lady who flirted with a triple-double even in a game this week. So, yeah, that's awesome stuff right out of the gate. Some conference matchups and big wins for some teams and things like that. So there's definitely some numbers that are being thrown up here. Mike, do you want to run through conference records up to this point?
Yeah, so looks like we've only had a couple of games where we've played conference opponents. Beech Grove is 1-0, but they're 2-1 overall. Indian Creek is 1-1. They're 2-1 overall. Speedway 0-1, and they're 1-1 overall. So those three teams that played each other basically, or Indian Creek has played Speedway and Beech Grove, and went 1-1 against those guys. Monrovia is 1-1 overall. Or 2-0. Sorry, Tri-West is 2-0, and Triton Central is 0-1. Like I said before, Monrovia, Tri-West, and Triton Central have not played a conference game yet, but I know that's going to be changing here soon. But we do have another sport going on, Coach, don't we? Some girls wrestling taking place. Do we want to go ahead and start talking school by school now?
Yeah, absolutely. Let's go ahead and get into it here. And we will start off on the south side with Beech Grove Lady Hornets. So it was funny when we were in our meeting today, I asked, hey, because wrestling, a lot of stuff used to be on track wrestling. I've got a son who wrestles at Tri-West, and so track wrestling was always what we used. And I guess a lot of schools have switched over using a different format now, USA Wrestling. And so trying to figure out like who's where, results, things like that. And so I wasn't sure because girls wrestling had just recently been sanctioned, who all even had a team, and everybody raised their hands. So that's great, obviously, to be able to see that everyone has, at least some kind of a team to field. And for those that are unfamiliar with the way that wrestling works is, you might only have 5 or 6 wrestlers. You wrestle them at whatever weight class you can, but obviously you'd like to be able to fill out the entire weight class brackets, right? To have somebody represent. But even on the guy side, there's forfeits that happen. So Beech Grove said they had 30 girls that are wrestling, and I was like, whoa. And they split their team up last weekend. Half their team went to Speedway for an invite. Half of them went to New Pal for an invite. So I'm going to quickly kind of run through the results that I was able to find from USA Wrestling for the Lady Hornets that went to Speedway. Coach and I, again, we're talking about this off the air. If we botch a name, we apologize. We've talked about this before, I think, in soccer. We're going to try to do our best. If you hear a mispronunciation, please feel free to send a polite correction, and we'll try to make sure we get it right moving forward. So, all right, kicking us off here at 110, Aline Mancara Ortega was 7th place. At the 120 weight class, Hallie Miller was 1st place. So congratulations to Hallie on winning her weight class at the Speedway invite for Beech Grove. At 120, Vivian Haviland was 6th place. 130, Mia Ortega came in 5th. At 155, Tomaya Evans, 7th place. At 170, DeAndra Pierce McKinney, 4th place. And at 235, Jenna Johnson, 4th place. So some good, impressive numbers there out of the gate for.
And that was really good on you on those names. Let me try the New Pal and see how bad I do on this. Okay.
Hey, go for it.
I'm going to take a little different approach. I'm going to go 1st place announcements from the New Pal, and that would be Caitlin Dibburn. Yeah. Let's go for that one. Yeah, so congratulations, Caitlin, on that one. She was the lone winner from Beech Grove at the New Pal invite. We did have a 2nd place at the 150 with Jocelyn Stinson. So good job to Jocelyn. We did have a couple 3rd places. At 120, we had Una McCarty and we had Anaya Nevers. So congratulations to them. At the 4th place, 110, Aubrey Clinny. We also had a 4th place at the 235 Alexa Rodriguez Lamas. So congratulations to her. And then the 5th place, we have 2 of those. 115, Danica Ray. And at 155, Leah Cornwell. And then we have a 7th place finisher as well at 125. That is Liliana Lozano.
Yeah,
I feel like
awesome.
that was okay.
Yeah, I think you nailed them. I think you did pretty well. We'll find out. If anyone catches one, they send us some feedback. We'll know, right? All right. For girls basketball, we had a chance to talk to Coach Selk, so we know that they were excited to get things going. The Lady Hornets started off the 24-25 campaign on the right foot after getting a huge conference win to start the season. The Hornets defeated Arsenal Tech 64-18 on Saturday. Then on Tuesday, Beech Grove hosted Whiteland and dropped a back-and-forth contest with the Warriors by a score of 50-42. Just as a note, too, Harper Moore I don't know if it's still open or not. I meant to look at that and I forgot. I don't know what the Indy Star Player of the Week time frame is, but I know she was nominated for that after her 14.11 game performance against Indian Creek. Harper put up 17 points in one half of action against Tech, and again did not have box score information on the Whiteland game from last night. But the Hornets will be back in action tomorrow night when they take on Greenfield Central. So a 2-1 start for the Lady Hornets is not all bad there. So let's move on over to Indian Creek.
Yeah, so the Braves girls basketball, after dropping a heartbreaker to Legends foe, brand new conference rival. They weren't in the same conference before, were they?
I don't think so. Were they in the ICC together? I feel like we should know this.
Yeah,
I think they were.
I don't think they were. I'm gonna say no, and then you know what? Anyone listening can come correct us.
There you
go. The Lady Braves bounced back to thump Martinsville. It's always good to beat Martinsville. They beat them on Saturday, 71-38. I mean, that's just an absolute whooping. So congratulations. After only being up by 3 points at the half, the Lady Braves used strong third and fourth quarters to pull away, outscoring the Artesians 43-15 in the second half. Indian Creek jumped right back into conference play on Tuesday night, taking on Speedway, and defeated the Spark Plugs by a score of 76-42 to move to 2-1 on the season. The girls will be back in action Saturday when they take on New Pal. New Pal is a powerhouse. I mean that in the weight room and in all athletics. So it's going to be a big competition for Indian Creek. Good luck to those girls.
All right, yeah. Moving on down to Monrovia, and we take a look at how the Lady Bulldogs have started their season, and much like the other two schools, they got their basketball season off to a good start here, opening the season 2-0. Monrovia thrashed future HLC member Greenwood 89-35 to start the season on Saturday. They then gutted out a win over a strong Park Tudor team by a score of 66-55. Again, don't have anything on the box score side from them. I hadn't even seen a roster. I'll have to go back in and check on Max Preps and see if their roster has been loaded up in there. But pretty solid performance right out of the gate there, putting up 89 against Greenwood and then 66 against Park Tudor. They will be back in action tomorrow night when they host the Weibo Stars. So congratulations to the Monrovia Bulldogs on getting started on the right foot there. On over to Speedway.
Yeah, so we've already mentioned Speedway a couple times in the girls basketball. But just to give them their shot, the Lady Spark Plugs got their season started off the right way by defeating Western Boone. Western Boone being a Tri-West old Sagamore rival, so I like to see them get beat. So nice job, Plugs. They beat them by a score of 67-60. Speedway was led by sophomore Madeline Matalik with 24 points and 8 rebounds. Senior Macy Delisle contributed with 17 points and 5 steals, while Haley Camplet had a solid all-around game with 15 points, 8 rebounds, and 3 steals. As we mentioned, the girls dropped their contest at Indian Creek last night. They'll bounce back Friday night when they take on Greenwood Christian Academy. Now, we talked about Beech Grove and their girls wrestling. Speedway, obviously, they had their invite and they had their own girls wrestling there, and they end up doing a really good job. We'll start with the 115 and work up to the 235. The 115, Mabel Adalbo was 5th place. At 125, Brooklyn Martin getting 3rd place. 130, Janela Dale, 3rd place. 135, Molly Thomas ended up getting 5th place. 140, Emily Hernandez dominated that class and got the 1st place. So congratulations to Emily. At 155, Mia Custer Smith ended up getting 3rd place. At 170, Miss Joseph got 6th place. And at 235, another champion wrestler for Speedway is Brianna Perapino. So congratulations to those ladies.
Yeah, that's awesome.
What's that, sir?
I just said that's awesome. That's good stuff.
Yeah, we got some wrestlers over at Tri-West too. You want to talk about them?
Yeah, absolutely. I know Coach McCoy over there is trying to get the girls' team pumped up a little bit. Got some numbers coming in. He sent 4 girls to the Speedway invite, and at 115, Casey Trivet came in 3rd place. At 135, Camber Posey, 3rd place. 140, Mackenzie Lester, 2nd place. And at 170, last year's state qualifier, Grace Marshall was 1st place in her weight class out there. So small but mighty group of wrestlers out there at Tri-West. Again, I know they're trying to work on getting the numbers up there with everything. So good showing there early on in the season for them. On the hard courts, the Lady Bruins opened season in the win column by dominating the Harrison Raiders last Saturday by a score of 66-48. Tri-West got a balanced attack from the whole squad. Anaya Anthony led the Bruins with 18 points to 8 rebounds, followed closely behind by Leah Mulligan, who had 15, and Blair Benner with 14. Cameron Ferris poured in 10 points and 7 rebounds, including 4 on the offensive end. As a team, the Bruins made 11 threes and forced 21 turnovers. So that's pretty solid defensive performance there and knocking it down from outside. Tuesday, the Bruins took on Perry Meridian and defeated the Falcons by a score of 52-45. After being down 30-22 at the half, the Bruins used stifling defense to hold Perry to just 15 points in the second half. Mike, listen to this. They held Perry Meridian to a 3-point fourth quarter. That's pretty amazing. That's getting after it, right? I'm sure Coach Crafton was probably like, we're going to go out and close this thing down right here and get this win. So that win moved them to 2-0 on the season, and they will be back in action tomorrow night against University High School. So congratulations to the Lady Bruins. I know we talked a little bit about this, Mike, a lot today, just in our conversations with the different ADs and with our AD. You know, numbers are kind of down across the board for what sounds like a lot of schools on girls' basketball side. Unfortunately, we won't even have a JV squad this year. So I know that kind of squeezes things a little bit for some teams, and hurts those that do have JV squads that they can't, schedule those games against other teams now. So you would like to try to maybe think that hopefully a good solid season, on the board for Coach Crafton might increase that interest again in the coming seasons. We'd love to be able to see that, get back to having a full JV squad there. But good job by those girls who are going out there and putting the time in and seeing the good results there. So congratulations to those Bruins there.
Yeah, absolutely. It's tough, and I think the more and more our kids are used to that instant gratification, the more and more they don't want to sit on a freshman team or a JV team. They can go play AAU and be a starter and play there, right? And then the head varsity coach has to explain to them, hey, just because you're good on that team doesn't mean that you're going to be able to start on our team. And that doesn't feel good. But
Hmm.
back in the day, it was a motivator to get better.
That's right.
And right now we're losing that boys and girls side.
Hmm.
Kids are just refusing to play if they can't start varsity, and it's just
Hmm.
it's a weird thing going on.
Yeah.
But moving on to Triton Central, and with the probably not the exact opposite of what we're dealing with basketball, but a group of girls who are willing to put their whole body on the line, win or lose, and say, "Hey, I'm going to fight," and it's not going to be in anybody's hands but mine. And
Hmm.
that's the girls wrestling over there. We have at 110, Aubrey Pop getting third place at that Speedway invite. At 115, Harper Young, fourth place at the Speedway invite. At 135, is that Halo Rolo? That
Haleo.
can't be right.
Hmm.
Haleo Rolo, sixth
Hmm.
place.
Hmm.
140, Grace Pugh at fourth place. At 155, Farrah Cohen at fifth place. 170, Lillian Siegel, fifth place. And the lone champion of their weight class from Triton Central at 190 was Zoe Gray. So congratulations to her.
Hmm.
And at 235, Kali Burmeister at third place. So, it's just a different type of kid who's willing to go out and try something new, try
Hmm.
something that is just, you know, it's hard. And I don't think anyone can argue that wrestling isn't the most physically demanding sport. I mean, I know swimming is pretty hard, but wrestling, you're going against somebody and you're just getting slammed and you're doing cardio and it's tough. So
Hmm.
congratulations to all those boys and girls who are putting up with that and working hard and not quitting. So that's awesome.
Yeah. Hey,
Uh,
just real quickly too, Mike. On that note, before you move into girls basketball, I've said before too, like my son Lucas got into wrestling late. He didn't wrestle until his sophomore year in high school, right? And I've seen him grow and mature so much. And I'm sure there's been other contributing factors, right? Just getting older. He's gotten, he's gotten job during that period of time, started working, taking on more responsibility. But I will put it out there that I think the biggest contributing factor has been being in that wrestling room. It just teaches you to be humble. Because when you're out there on that mat, it's like we talk about like cross country, right? Very physically demanding, to go out there and pour everything out into a 5K. I mean, if you've ever done like a charity fundraiser 5K, you know how grueling that is. And then try to run it in a race format, almost kind of like quasi sprinting for that whole time. But there's just something about being out there on that mat in a gym with the spotlight on you, one on one with another opponent. And like you were saying, like there's no one coming to save you. It's not like in football where if you catch a screen pass and you get some linemen out in front of you, they can pop you free. Or on the basketball court, if you miss a three, offense can get an offensive rebound, put it back in. You understand what I'm saying, right? Like when you're
yeah,
out there and you're getting your butt kicked, what are you going to do, right? Are you just going to get up and walk off the mat? No, like you're going to fight as long as you can, right? And you get blown up within the first minute of your match, and then you got to wrestle maybe 3 or 4 or 5 times at an invite. I mean, it's unreal what that sport and what I've seen it teach young men and women about perseverance, character, integrity. It's all there in wrestling, and I've really grown to like watching the sport. There's a lot of times on Friday nights now I'll watch Big Ten Network. They last year they did a lot of wrestling stuff on Friday nights, and I mean it was just amazing to watch these world class athletes who are now going on. They'll go in like some of the best fighters in UFC. They have that wrestling pedigree, and so it's amazing to see them compete at that level. So anyway, I didn't want to interrupt 100%, but while you mentioned that, I want to make sure I threw that in there. So I'll let you continue now with finishing up Triton Central.
hey man, anytime that we can give some props to some of the hardest working kids in the school, I'm all for it.
Yeah.
Triton Central girls basketball, the Lady Tigers were a little delayed in getting their season started as the volleyball team went to semi-state. They finally got underway Tuesday as they took on Heritage Christian, dropping a close contest to the Eagles by a score of 63-59. The Tigers were led by senior standout Mary Rose Felling, who had 25 points and 7 rebounds. 25 points. That's amazing. And then junior Quinn King flirted with a triple-double, going 16 points, 7 rebounds, and 9 assists. The Lady Tigers are back at it again tomorrow night when they take on Greenwood Christian Academy, even though I think somebody else is playing them.
No, I looked at that. You did exactly what I did. GCA plays back-to-back nights against HLC teams. I think they play Speedway tomorrow night, and then I think they play Triton tomorrow night, and I think they play Speedway or someone.
Okay.
Because I looked at that and I was like, nah, that can't be right. That's got to be a scheduling error. So I went to their max preps and I was like, oh, they play back-to-back nights against HLC teams.
That's funny.
Yeah. So,
well, if they want to play the best, that's what happens. You know what I mean?
Yeah. All right. So awesome stuff again across the board. We love to be able to get, all these athletes shouted out when we can find the great things that they're doing. It's fantastic. So congratulations. It seems like it's going to be a really solid start to the girls season, already. Very competitive basketball being played. And before we jump into football, Mike, that's something that I want to ask you about. I know we did a little set where we talked about records, right? We kind of went through and we talked about what all can you put into a record. So I want to ask you this question, especially when we start thinking about what the basketball season looks like, right? Because it's just a much different schedule than like football, right? Where every game is so important to the overall, conference standings, where you are at the end of the season. And obviously it doesn't do anything for like seeding or anything per se in sectional time. But we kind of went through that. So here's my question to you. Like when I looked at some of the schedules across the board for HLC teams, it's like you got a conference matchup right out of the gate, right? You've got Beech Grove, Indian Creek, OT. That game could be huge at the end of the season in determining conference champion or standings. And you think about it, like that's your first game right out of the gate where you're probably still installing a lot. You're getting your conditioning in, and then you look and you see, I think there's a conference matchup, the last regular season game. It might be between Speedway and Tri-West. I know Tri-West is on somebody's schedule as the very last game of the season, right? And we always talk about, sometimes it's not necessarily who you play, but when you play them. Because, you can have injuries, you could have a number of other things that change a team and that kind of thing. So I'm just kind of curious, like what do you think might be the benefit, drawback, that kind of thing? We might have dropped Mike here off of the feed. We'll try to get him added back in. See. Can you hear me now?
Can you hear me now?
Yeah. Hey, sorry about that. I just saw your message there. Noticed that you were off the screen. So I was just talking. I don't know how much you heard me.
No, I heard it.
Okay.
Yeah, I appreciate it. I don't know, Coach. I think you have the Milan story. A school from little nowhere can go out and beat a 6A, 5A, state champion type team. You have teams that, who play, really okay, to not very good opponents, and then, get beat first round of sectionals. I think, when you're a coach and you're setting up a schedule, you want to be competitive in every game. You want to either win by 10 or lose by 10, right? Mm-hmm. I think at the end of the day, you want to win your conference. That should be your number one goal, is to win conference. And then, have a schedule that's going to help you either win by 10 or lose by 10, like I said, and then get prepared for sectionals, right? So if one of your sectional opponents plays a certain type of defense, or, they're just a half court offense, you want to schedule games that mimic that offense or mimic that defense, so your team isn't surprised when they see that, right? Mm-hmm. So that might cost you a loss, or it might cost you a game that you're going to win by 40, right? But what you're doing is you're just preparing your kids for that, instance when it comes up in sectionals. So I think, I don't know if I'm answering your question. I don't know if the record does matter. The record matters when you win your conference. That's what matters, right?
Right.
So I don't think any coach, and I don't think anybody in the HLC can ever really do that, regardless of the sport. Say, hey, it's just Tri-West. We're gonna win. It's not a big deal. Or hey, man, we're playing Beach Grove tonight. We're gonna get our butt kicked. That's who they are. We don't have that in this league. It is very competitive. Each team can win, each team can lose in almost every single sport. So I don't think Coach Strine is going to look at the very last game of the season and go, yeah, guys, we've only lost 2 games. They've only won 2 games. It's not that big of a deal.
Right.
That's not the mindset any of our coaches at any school has.
Yeah. And I got a little bit, we got a little bit of a sneak peek behind the curtain, a little bit about, how difficult it is to put a schedule together. I mean, you got to give these ADs a ton of credit. I mean, they're having to schedule so many different sports and, get your conference schedule set, then get, and people may not even understand there's contracts on these things, right? I mean, it's not like, Coach Knapp can reach out to Western Boone or Bethesda or, North Putnam and say, hey, we've got an open date. Let's just get together in the gym and run it. Right. It's like, it's a lot of work to get it scheduled. And so obviously just getting the event together, but then, getting the contract drawn up, making sure you've got officials, like building an entire schedule out for all of the different sports that they have to do. It's a massive undertaking. And even when you split it up, it's still very, very difficult to get it balanced, keep it fair, not get it to where, one school is having to play, a bunch of road games and then have a bunch of home games in the next year. Or, again, just like where do you fit in those conference matchups in the course of the season and honor the contracts that you already had? Because again, with a new conference, right, that's what you have to try to do. You're trying to hodgepodge it and fit it in with a lot of that stuff. So, I'm sure that, Indian Creek and Beech Grove, for example, their coaches probably tell their girls, look, it wouldn't matter if this is game 1, game 20, we're going to have to play them at some point. And it doesn't matter, if we're just now learning the offense or getting our legs under us conditioning, or if it's at the end of the year where we're tired and just ready to be done or whatever. And then I guess the other nice thing about it too is with us having an open tournament, right? Again, I don't know if a lot of people understand or know, like there's a lot of states in the country where you have to qualify for postseason play, right? And so we're pretty fortunate here in the state of Indiana that we have that where everybody gets a shot at it in the postseason. So, again, kind of your point, Mike, I think probably just kind of working on different phases of the season and seeing where you're at in your conference standings, right? You want to try to win conference, but then, once you kind of see where you're slotted at and what you're moving towards in the second season, then you start working towards preparing for your conference or your sectional opponents. So, yeah, I was just kind of curious what your thoughts were on that as far as, schedule when you play someone in the season, if you think it really amounts to much, or if it's just, it doesn't matter if it's first, last, or in the middle, you got to go out and play the game.
Yeah, that's pretty much how I view it,
Yeah.
And, I just hope we never get to the point, and maybe we already are, to where we don't care about the regular season. There's so many sports out there, whether it's, college basketball, maybe doesn't as much, but like college football or, people just don't care about who wins the conference anymore. It's all about how many national championships have you won? How many of these have you won? Like the NFL, and it's you play every game and you enjoy every game. Yeah, the ultimate might be to win the state championship, but these are high school kids just going out there and playing and having fun. So play good competition, enjoy the game. That's how it should be.
Yep, absolutely. 100%. All right. Well, let's start to wrap up here by taking a look at what we saw on Friday night last week. We had two HLC teams that were competing for a sectional championship, one victorious, one falling in defeat. But as you'll hear, absolutely nothing to be ashamed of. So let's go ahead and start it off with Triton Central Tigers. They went up to face Lapel, who I believe is ranked number 2 at the time in 2A football. And unfortunately, the Bulldogs were able to beat back the Tigers by a final score of 15-28. Lapel in that game jumped out to a 14-0 lead in the first quarter. The Tigers fought to bring it to a 21-15 game going into the fourth quarter. And that's really about all you can ask for when you get down by 2 scores early in the game is, just, hey, let's find a way to be in it, have a shot in the fourth quarter. However, the Bulldogs were able to salt the game away in the fourth quarter, getting a TD to go up and go on to win in that 28-15 fashion. Lapel's defense made life tough for quarterback Matthew Wilkins, who threw 3 INTs and was sacked 6 times. He was able to throw 2 TDs, though, one to junior Henry Kemper and one to senior Braden Brown. Kemper also had 91 total yards receiving on 7 catches, and Brown found the running to be kind of tough sledding. I mean, 18 times for 78 yards is still about a 4.1 average, but I know he had popped off quite a bit during the season, routinely going into triple digits. So that Lapel defense, I'm sure, was pretty stout. And then as we heard today, too, and again, this is, information that when we're kind of breaking this stuff down for you guys and filling you in on what's happening, we didn't know until today that quarterback Matthew Wilkins did sound like tear his ACL in that game at some point in the fourth quarter. And I noticed as I went back and looked at I believe they had Braden Brown fill in. He was 2 of 3, I think, on the game. So maybe in the fourth quarter, he ended up throwing the ball a couple of times after that injury. So, that's a really unfortunate thing to hear. I know that Wilkins is a very talented quarterback, and hopefully he'll be able to have 100% recovery, full recovery, and get back on the grind there. So best wishes to him to get on the mend, and hopefully, whatever surgery there is or has been, that it goes smooth and everything there. So, look, Mike, that's a great season for the Tigers. They were the inaugural HLC champions. They advanced to the sectional final in what I truly believe was one of the toughest sectionals in the state. At that 2A level, when we went through that, you had a lot of really, really good football teams in there. And so congrats to Coach Abel and the boys. I know they'll look to reload and continue their winning ways in the next season. So absolutely nothing to be ashamed of there.
Yeah, I would just like to add in the other little secret that we kind of heard, and I think if you're a Triton Central fan, you saw and you're probably not really happy with, was I believe it was Coach Abel who was trying to call a timeout. They were like 3rd and a half a yard. I think that's what, we were kind of saying at the meeting. Mm-hmm. And none of the referees were paying attention to him because they were down by the end zone. And so he had to run out in the field, right, trying to get their attention to call timeout. The referee finally looked at him, saw him, called timeout, and then threw a 15-yard flag because he was out in the field. You know what I'm saying? And it's like you're playing for a sectional championship game. A coach is trying to call timeout.
Right.
And you feel as an official that it's appropriate to throw a 15-yard flag on him. Mm-hmm. Like, it's also your job to pay attention to see if the coach wants a timeout.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, I think that is a referee putting himself into the game. Mm-hmm. Like, the kids did nothing wrong. The coach was trying to call a timeout. You were not paying attention. And so you throw a 15-yard flag on the coach, costing them potentially a sectional championship. Mm-hmm. That's when I get so upset with referees. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's a time to throw those flags on those coaches. There's a lot. Those referees have a lot of patience for a lot of those coaches who are screaming in their ear, right? And I get it. Fourth quarter, near the end of the game, stress is high. You've probably been yelled at, the whole game. Mm-hmm. But man, you have to understand, like, this is for the championship. They're a half yard away. Coach is trying to call timeout. You're not paying attention to him. What do you want him to do?
Right.
I think cooler heads should have prevailed.
Yeah,
throw
and
throw the flag.
Go ahead,
meet together. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Find out what happened. Wave the flag off. Give the guy his timeout.
Yeah, absolutely. And I was just going to say, you compare and contrast that to what, I don't know if you recalled seeing this in the Cascade Tri-West game. There was a sideline warning that was thrown on the cadets at one point. I can't remember if it was they were coming off the field after an extra point or it was a turnover on downs. I know there was some players coming on and off the field, and I saw the flag get thrown right over by the Cascade bench. And I thought, oh man, one of the coaches or players must have said something to the official and they're going to get a 15-yard penalty. And all the guy said was sideline warning, against that. That's how that should have been officiated, from what I understand. Right. Now again, not being there, not knowing the full, story, but I 100% agree with you. You can't turn this into it being about you. And I get exactly what you're saying. Referees are in short, supply right now because of situations where they take a lot of verbal abuse, and I get all that. But I mean, you just hate for that situation to arise, right? Where that's a determining factor in the outcome of that game. And I'm with you. I think, yeah, you just realize, hey, we get it. You were trying to call a timeout. We didn't get it. We'll just give you a sideline warning, no yardage on that. But yeah, that's a rough thing to see happen there for sure.
Yeah. Well, on the other side of things, we do have an HLC sectional champion, and that would be Indian Creek, as they defeated Scottsburg 49-13. Now, we previously talked about Evan Clark and the great day that he had, earning the Spotlight Player of the Week. But you know what? There's about 21 other players on that team that contributed during that game. Not to mention all the practice players and coach staff and family members who do so much work behind the scenes. But the Braves rolled to their sectional championship by defeating Scottsburg by 36 points. Indian Creek jumped all over the Warriors, going up 21-0 in the first quarter. Sophomore Evan Clark lit up the scoreboard, going 10 for 14, 254 yards, 5 touchdowns, and 0 interceptions. On the ground, the Braves controlled things, running for 162 yards as a team. Defensively, the Braves frustrated the Warriors, limiting them to 35 yards on the ground and forcing 3 total turnovers. The Braves advanced to regionals, where they will take on perennial powerhouse Gibson Southern. The Titans are 11-1 and have made deep runs in the postseason play in recent years, winning state championship back in 2021. This will be a tough task for the Braves, as Gibson Southern is averaging nearly 40 points per game and only giving up 16. And as we go on to talk about who we think is going to win this game, I will add, giving up 16 and averaging 40 points, that does include Evansville Memorial, who was the number 1 ranked team in 3A, and Heritage Hills, who I believe at that time was number 1 ranked in 4A, or at least the top 3 in 4A. So this is an amazing schedule that Gibson Southern has played, and just going 11-1 against the teams who I would argue, and I think it's probably pretty clear, but I would argue that their sectional is the toughest sectional in 3A football the last couple of years. With them, Heritage Hills and Evansville Memorial, all perennial powerhouses down south.
Right.
So saying that, yeah, I think Gibson Southern wins this game. John Harrell has it close, 35-24. I love Indian Creek. I'm rooting for Indian Creek. I hope Indian Creek wins. But Gibson Southern is a machine down there. And if you're not prepared, if you're not ready for that, it can be over quick. So I think it's probably going to be more of a 42-14 game. Until Gibson Southern can get beat, I have them winning state. They're just an incredible team. So what's your thoughts, Coach?
Yeah. I mean, I kind of echo a lot of the things that you said. I mean, obviously, my heart is rooting for Indian Creek. I think if you try to look at maybe a couple of things that maybe point that they have a chance at this, it's that they do have some athletes across the board. Not that Gibson Southern doesn't, but we saw what they could do offensively out at our place. you get into these games in the postseason and you factor in things like nerves and stuff like that too. And yeah, you probably think, yeah, a team like Gibson Southern that's made deep postseason runs, they're built for this. It's probably going to affect Indian Creek a little bit more. They do have to travel down to Gibson Southern as well. That's a little bit of a haul to get down there, right? So Gibson Southern's comfy in their home confines and all of that stuff. So not a lot of stuff is pointing in the favor of Indian Creek. About the only thing that you could really look at on paper and say, hey, this is actually, maybe something that might benefit them. We talked about before opponent's record, right? Indian Creek's opponent's record 64-58, Gibson Southern 58-48. So a little bit better on that end. But again, at this point in the season, that doesn't probably carry a whole lot of weight. Yeah, I'm with you. I think that Gibson Southern sneaks by here. I'm pulling for Indian Creek, but I think they get by, probably close to what Harrell has. I could see it being, somewhere around like 28-20, somewhere in there. But yeah, I probably see Gibson Southern getting this, but I hope that we're wrong. I hope that we're proven wrong. It would be a pretty magical thing for the Braves to be able to keep representing the HLC and to move on to semi-state. So that's going to be a really fun contest. I'm going to be interested to kind of keep an eye on how things proceed throughout that game. And I know as we start to wrap up this episode here too, I did want to mention that we are, again, much like what we tried to do with the girls side of things, we are going to attempt to reach out to our boys head coaches as well and try to get some input from them on what they're seeing. We've got some amazing head coaches across the board, much like on the girls side. We've got coaches that are a coach that's in the Hall of Fame, one who's soon to be in the Hall of Fame. We have some up and coming young coaches. For example, Coach Sanders down at Beech Grove, Coach Strine out at Tri-West. You got a new coach out at Speedway, replacing longtime head coach Chuck Bennett out there. So some intrigue on that side. And then you just got a consistent, steady force down at Indian Creek. So a lot of unique storylines just on the head coaching side, let alone the player talent that you're going to see in this conference this year. I think a lot of people are really going to, if they like just seeing good, fundamental, solid basketball, really well coached, keep an eye on the HLC this year. It's going to be a lot of fun, and I'm hopeful that we can get some input and feedback from these coaches to get their thoughts on what they think they're going to see this year in this conference. And then, of course, obviously, that will only be improved by the additions of Greenwood and Shelbyville next year, but really excited to see what things look like this year. So, Mike, anything that you want to add before we wrap up this episode?
No, sir. Appreciate all the listeners. Thanks, guys.
Yeah, absolutely. Like we always say, again, continue, please, to help us grow the show with likes, comments, all that stuff on the Google machine. It helps push the SEO stuff and for the show to pop up when people search for us. And would love to continue to see the numbers grow. So again, if you're digging what we're doing, please help us out that way. But thank you so much. And we will see you again next week for another episode of the Hoosier Legends Weekly Podcast.
Concrete jungles got 'em posted beats. My heart's I'm with the city streets.